tokenization, some tokens to look at, some other developments going on in the crypto ecosystem. Yeah, we're looking forward to getting this started, kind of wrapping up our week on tokenization. So yeah, I'm looking forward to sharing everything, all the information with you. As I mentioned, we're just gonna wait for a minute here, and then I'll hit the start show button, and we'll get going. How's everybody out there doing tonight? Feel free to drop your comments. We should be able to get the comments in today. I'm checking right now just to see. Whisper backstage. Yeah, so apparently YouTube comments are the only ones that come in through our system currently. We're going to check to see if we can remedy that in the future. I know we got people on X, and I'm not sure if Rumble's connected yet, but we'll see about that. Ooh, it looks like there's actually 13 people in here right now. Nice. So yeah, actually, let's just get this thing rolling because we're already a few minutes behind schedule. So here we go. How you guys like the standing? I'm standing up today. It's a new trial thing we're working on. So hey everybody, my name is Jordan Finiseth. I'm your host for Bullrun Bunker. Today is Friday, January 23rd. Cryptos are starting to pick up again, so things are getting exciting. We're currently live streaming on X, YouTube, and Rumble. If you're tuning in for the first time, the Bullrun Bunker is where you come for your cutting edge insights on crypto and other developments in the world. Last time, we dove into the rise of tokenization, and today we're going to follow up with a little bit of fresh insights and look at a couple coins. But overall, just to give you a little bit more explainer about the Bullrun Bunker for people that don't know, we look at the idea of the bunker is we're gonna store away assets, some cryptos, certain AI token or AI stocks, things like that. They're going to be big in the future that we predict. With that future forecasting group, we incorporate remote viewing into our analysis to kind of give us a forward-looking progress on. Ooh, thank you, Dot Goddess. I like this green shirt too. Yeah, we use remote viewing to kind of get insights into the future of developments, whether it's cryptocurrency. We started crypto viewing, looking at cryptocurrencies, and now we've migrated to future forecasting group. We look at more than just cryptocurrencies. We look at global events. I think the most recent one we did looking at what flags are going to be flying over Taiwan in 2040. They just did a really good session on uranium, actually, is releasing today, like the future of uranium and what kind of technologies it's going to be used in. So yeah, we incorporate that into as an intelligence gathering session to give a full overview of different resources to help predict what's going to be in the future. And like we've seen, a lot of our sessions have seen that in the future, technology, whether it's human wearables or virtual reality, are really going to develop spectacularly, and some really interesting and awesome things are going to be coming out. And the goal is to kind of take that information, look at the current investment landscape, and find assets and other things to invest in, put them in our bunker now when their prices are low, and then we're waiting for the bull run that we predict is going to come in the future, hence the bull run bunker. We're putting these things in our bunker now, and when they do eventually rally, we're going to be able to cash out and have some nice gains. Again, we don't talk about investment advice here. This is kind of educational purposes only and entertainment, but that's just kind of a general overview. So let's just jump into the markets here. Share my screen, BRB, boom. So yeah, Bullrun Bunker Live, the tokenization wave. There you go. Before we kind of get into the tokenization stuff, let's take a look at the markets. Currently, market intelligence, January 26th to January 23rd. The total market cap is sitting around 3 trillion. I think last time I checked it was about 3.06 trillion. Kind of dumped down a little bit recently, but we're starting to pick back up. Bitcoin was fighting to hold support at 90,000 after stabilizing at its October 126K all-time high. I think the last time I checked, Bitcoin was at about $90,700. So it is kind of, we're seeing some green in the charts today. Hopefully this can continue. Long term, we do predict that maybe we'll see some more choppiness and negative kind of prices up through Q1 potentially, and maybe start to see the next stage of this bull run towards the end of Q1. Solana is getting some attention now. So about $3 million in net inflows into the spot ETFs occurred on January 21st. So that's kind of hyping people up. Looking at the broader market and the sentiment, the sentiment has shifted from retail speculation to wholesale institutional consensus, which is something that we're really excited about, and part of the reason that we're talking about tokenization here. Let me just jump onto I'll jump onto CoinMarketCap real quick just to show you guys what we're looking at here. So yeah, you see again on the 7-day chart we are in the red for a lot of things. Solana's down 10%. So yeah, there's hype around this inflows, but the price is still not reflecting that just because we've had some rough goes. I think Trump said a few things that upset a few people, and people are kind of went risk off in a lot of financial markets, and we're dealing with that with crypto. It's always risk off, and this whole cycle has thrown people for a loop. The 4-year cycle thing has kind of gone out the window. We had what the ETFs launched in early 2024. Was that 2024? The end of 2024, we had the really good market rally. A lot of people are saying that was the top. Now I know some people are saying that the October all-time high for Bitcoin was the top of the market. But if you look at for the altcoin market, especially like January or December 2024 was actually the top, which sucks for a lot of us, right? Because I personally hold a lot more altcoins than I do with just Bitcoin and Ethereum. But that's a different side story. You look at it this now. So yeah, on the 7-day chart, we're pretty down in the red. Monero, ooh, that was performing really well, but it's down 19%. For those that don't know, the privacy coin, we're doing really well for a while because there's Zcash too. Because so the institutions are coming in and they're realizing like, oh man, if I transact with Bitcoin and Ethereum, they can see everything I do. So they're kind of pivoting to embracing some of these privacy coins so that they can actually conduct transactions without people knowing what they are, kind of protecting their business and whatnot. So that's what's going on with the privacy coins. If you notice that a lot of those have rallied recently, that's what's going on. But yeah, we are bouncing back today. What's this Dash? So that Dash privacy coin Dash is up almost 12% today. So that's kind of a general overview of the market. Are we going to keep going up from here? Like I said before, a lot of analysts are predicting that we're going to be choppy and weak until the end of Q1. So this might just be a little bounce to kind of placate the traders, give people something. I wouldn't on forever now on, so just keep that in mind. Let's get back to the presentation I got going. Here we go. All right, so that's kind of the overview of the market. The real world assets have really taken center stage. As I mentioned in the show we had on Tuesday, the recent announcement from the NYSE really kind of kicked things off and brought a lot of attention to the sector. The whole market, or the RWA market, has surpassed 21 billion this week. But that excludes stablecoins. Technically, stablecoins are the biggest real world asset tokenized thing in the market right now. They were kind of under the radar RWA for a long time, but if you think about it, they are just a tokenized version of the US dollar. So they are tokenized assets. We also have a lot of interest in gold with Tether's XAUT gold-backed token sitting at nearly $2 billion in total investment. So yeah, $2 billion have been invested into the XAUT price. This price is currently around 4,600, which is in line with the gold price. We also have seen that Ethereum is dominating in the real world asset space. It currently houses or hosts about 65% of the assets that are tokenized in the whole crypto ecosystem. Solana is another good competitor, and that's why we also saw the inflows of 3 million into its ETFs, because it is starting to gain traction as far as the RWA crowd, largely because of its low transaction costs and speed. Ethereum is still, they've done a lot better on the transaction cost part of it, but it still can take a little bit longer than some of the other chains, unless you're using one of the layer 2 networks like Arbitrum or Base. There was also the Davos meeting over in Davos. It's in Davos. The WEF meeting over in Davos 2026. And they were, again, also focusing on tokenization and the introduction of cryptocurrencies and blockchain. And the new theme is like the era of how has begun. It's not if or when, it's how are we going to implement these things. Some of the key takeaways from some of the presentations and things we've seen out there, the discussions have moved from what is crypto to how do we deploy it at scale. So we're seeing bigger companies, institutions, banks, even other ancillary companies and whatnot start to work and question how they can hire people that can help them integrate blockchain, find out the ways that make it work, deal with things like the transparency of it. So yeah, it's really starting to become into the prime time. The BlackRock's BUIDL fund, I don't know how to say it, the BIDL fund, it crossed 2 billion in assets. The total dividends have paid out over $100 million. So that's picking up steam. We're seeing more engagement with institutions. BlackRock CEO Larry Fink, his vision is tokenization is the next generation for markets. So they also, even I mentioned in the last show that Jamie Dimon came out and said that blockchain technology is the better technology compared to the old financial system. So They've gone past the days of calling Bitcoin rat poison or just firing people for considering trading it, and now they're really starting to roll it in. Quote from Davos: "Tokenization is the name of the game, but it's for wholesale markets first." So just like they kind of roll out everything, they're really going to implement it with the institutions and banks and the larger wholesale markets before they really push it out to the plebs like us, right? The normies or the normal people. So yeah, they're really trying to establish it for banks, institutions, and the bigger players. And this kind of goes down to and why we're seeing some weakness in the market here. They don't want a bunch of normal people becoming wealthy off the cryptos. They're champing it down. If we go back to what was it in December or November, we had that sharp sell-off in the whole market. And then like the next day, JP Morgan announced that they're going to let clients buy Bitcoin. Vanguard announced that they're going to finally allow people to access Bitcoin ETFs. So that was, for anybody paying attention, that was clearly a coordinated effort to tamp it down. And we could continue to see some of that weakness. There are some projections of Bitcoin even falling down as low as like $56,000, which would be scary for a lot of people. But for the people that have some money stacked away and just waiting, that's a prime buying opportunity, because eventually this market is going to head higher. And long-term Bitcoin is probably not going to trade much lower than the 50K mark going forward. And eventually it might be in the $1 million range. So just kind of be apprised of that. There is an effort to shake people out. They don't want a bunch of people having a bunch of altcoins that are just going to make them millionaires and stuff like that. So again, it's hodl strong, stick to your conventions, and yeah, pack that bunker away and just keep going forward. There was also ARK Investing. It released its ARK Investing Big Ideas for 2026. In this report, they predicted that by 2030, the tokenized asset, the RWA sector, will be worth $11 trillion. It's currently worth, what did I say? It was like 22 million. So it's like a 50,000% increase from today's level. So this is definitely that's why we're talking about it this week. Like, tokenization is a big thing. It is coming, and it's going to transform the world as we know it. And a big thing that ARK pointed to was what we talked about on Tuesday, is the NYSE's tokenization platform. Its 24/7 trading and instant settlement platform is the primary catalyst for this new influx of interest into tokenized assets. So let's before we get, let me just jump back real quick as far as like some of the tokenization things. So like, people don't necessarily realize all that this is going to entail. So yeah, it's going to start off with things like real estate, stock. We'll start off with stocks. It's already started off with treasuries, stocks. You got tokenized gold, but we're going to start expanding into every asset, every facet of society. Real estate. Say there's a big hotel, they're going to tokenize it, put it on a blockchain, and this enables hundreds of thousands potentially of people to buy a token that represents that a share in that hotel, and they'll be able to like put it in a wallet. And if the hotel has income, they might have a system where it automatically puts some of that income into the wallet where the token is held. You're gonna get, but that's just the simple real estate. Some of the deeper, like, let's get conspiratorial right now. Like, you're gonna be tokenized. Each one of us is gonna be, and tokenization is really just giving a representation of a thing online. So if I have an NFT that's Jordan NFT, it's going to be put on online, and it could have potentially, like, I could connect it with my hospital or doctor and put my health insurance, health information in there. I could connect it with the schools that I went to. They could put in like my diplomas, my grades, all these types of things, your DMV records, and eventually we're gonna be voting on blockchain. You're gonna get a token that's you from the government. It's gonna be in your wallet, and it's the thing that you're gonna sign up for to vote. If you get any kind of stimulus payments or anything, that money, whether you get sent to you, you're gonna hold that token in the wallet, and that's where they're gonna send it. So the tokenization, and again, non-fungible token just means it's a token that's created to represent something online or on chain. And that there's so many wild implications of what this is going to lead to, but that's just kind of a taste to give you a broader sense of tokenization isn't just about putting assets online. It's about putting everything online. And that's kind of what we predicted here years ago at a future forecasting group. The whole thing that's going on now is this transition to more efficiency, a new efficient system. That's so everybody's going to have a blockchain. Everybody's going to have their own kind of private AI and blockchain and token, and it's going to be used to govern and run our lives and like hand out any kind of government stimuluses. Yeah, it's going to take over. It's going to transform worlds. It's almost hard to explain what it's going to be because it's going to be so different from what it is currently that people are going to be shocked by what changes. But we've seen these coming for a long time, and it's not going to stop. So let's get into a couple of tokens that are popular and good within the RWA sector. Again, this is not financial advice. Recently, last night actually, we have a segment at Future Forecasting Group called Crypto Masterminds, where me, a couple of people, Dick Allgaier, the remote viewer, Michael, who is our behind the scenes guy that knows a lot about trading and just a lot about information in general. And usually if somebody from Uptrade, which is located in Australia, it's a broker. This time it was Jeff, who's one of the owners, I believe. But we all get together and we cover 2 to 3 tokens each week, kind of give a good, bad, and ugly. We call it like the good things, the bad things, and the ugly things. It usually gets more into the conspiratorial realm. We cover all those things. We chart it. We look at the chart. We do some Fibonacci trend extensions to kind of predict, based on what happened in the past, where the token's going to go. So we had that session last night, and one of the tokens we cover 3. I'm going to give you one of them right now, which is Ondo. It's the institutional bridge, Ondo from Ondo Finance. Ondo is a leader in tokenized U.S. Treasury and yield products. It's institutional grade, which means it offers a seamless transition from TradFi to DeFi integration. It's currently, last I checked, around 35 cents. It might be a little different now just because the market's moving a little bit, but I made this last night. And it has a 2026 target of $1 plus, which is 3x from now. And I said we mentioned the trend-based Fibonacci extensions. The 1.618, which was based on the previous cycle on top, when you kind of start from the low, put the trend up to the top, and you move across. The higher Fibonacci range is the 1.618 level was at $5. That's just the first level. We predicted it possibly going to go even higher to the 2.618 level, up around over $7. So it's a promising token. It's on all the big exchanges like Coinbase, and the actual one of the names is one of the catchphrases for Ondo is actually Wall Street 2.0. That kind of points to what's going on here and how everything is going to be coming on chain. The one thing to note with even platforms like Ondo, I'm not going to mention the other 2 that we covered last night, but even with some of them, like when you compare that to what's going on like with the NYSE, so you're seeing these old established partners start to come in. So we might see some competition for places like Ondo and stuff if these NYSE and these other platforms really launch tokenization platforms that gain traction. And they most likely will, because again, the crypto people involved in crypto is still niche, where there's not a lot of us necessarily. The majority of people out there, they might trade on Robinhood or Schwab. Some of them, if they have dabbled in crypto, they're on Coinbase, but most people aren't in crypto yet. And when they do get into it, they're not going to jump on a Coinbase or some platform they're not familiar with. They're going to go with what they already know. So if these current brokers are the places where people are already at, if they start offering services, it's definitely going to eat into these different tokens like Ondo. But there's plenty to go around. And I said, this is from 11 trillion plus. There's a lot of money to be coming into this whole sector. So there's plenty to go around for people to, and different platforms to grow and offer their services. So that's Ondo. One that I'm not going to cover, and so we're doing this right now. This is live, giving it out for broadcasting it on social media everywhere. Eventually, we are going to kind of launch it. Start off with the market overview, kind of review some of the stuff. I'll mention what one of the tokens that we cover on Crypto Mastermind. But eventually, we are going to put maybe the second half of this behind the paywall to kind of cover some more coins. I'm going to go over 2 more. So we're going to be potentially going over up to 5 tokens per week. A lot of them are going to be behind the paywall just because we got to make sure we're covered on our side. There's the whole investment advice thing that we don't want to get tangled up with, but just for that. So just letting you all know in the future, we will be changing the format, but as we roll out, we're going to offer these shows for free out there to broadcast to everybody for a while, just to kind of get us into the flow of operating and letting everybody know what we're doing. So another token to cover is Centrifuge, which is private credit on-chain. The thesis is that on-chain lending against real business assets, such as invoice and loans, which is different from a lot of the other things. A lot of the lending platforms out there right now, you put your crypto on there, you can take out loans against that. One of the tokens we actually covered last night is about that as well. So yeah, look into that. The wedge, high compliance standards for enterprise lead lenders. So yeah, this is Centrifuge is focusing on enterprise lenders. I got 2 enterprises there, don't I? Just realized that. Its current price is around 12 cents. Let me see if there's anything I'm missing on Centrifuge. Yeah, so the protocol, just to review what I wrote here, protocol specializes in tokenized private credit and real business assets, enabling on-chain lending against real-world assets like invoices and loans. And it's DeFi native with strong compliance features, and its TVL has been climbing. Its current price is around 12 cents, with predictions that could reach between 30 and 50 cents by year's end as private credit tokenization takes off. So that's that's a 200% growth. And the charts that we show actually, these are conservative numbers. A lot of our charts show like bigger gains, but we don't, A, investment advice, we don't want to do that. And B, we're just trying to be realistic. But anybody that's been around for crypto bull markets knows that when things actually get rolling, they can often far exceed expectations. But just to give people kind of a grounded approach, those are some of the 50 cents is a worthwhile, and it's reasonable for a centrifuge. Next up, Realio Network. Oh, Realio Network. Multi-chain platform for tokenizing a wide range of assets, including funds, real estate, and equities. It focuses on regulatory compliance and seamless TradFi integration. Its current price is around 17 cents. Looking ahead, some see it hitting 50 cents plus in 2026, fueled by broader asset digitization. Both Centrifuge and Realio Network are good examples of projects in the tokenization sector, but they are just a taste of what's out there. The sector's primed for trillions in value and migration, like literally trillions of value is going to migrate from the old world that is currently out there into these tokenized platforms and ecosystem. And as I mentioned before, there's plenty to go around. So a lot of projects are going to do really well. That doesn't mean they're going to stay up forever. Again, if anybody's been around for multiple crypto cycles, as I have, you want to get not investment advice, but catch out when they're up, because they're always going to fall back down. Always fall back down. We're not going to get to the place where any crypto just kind of stays unless it's a stable coin. They kind of want that for Bitcoin, but even in the future, Bitcoin's going to still have some choppiness and trade at different levels intraday. So just be aware of that. Realio Network. Yeah. So let's move on to some questions. Bunker community, I know I mentioned that earlier. Oh, I got some questions over here. Let's see if I can RTY is showing a cycle for crypto and namely ETH and alts. It's about to begin. Is RTY a coin? I'm not sure. Off the top of my head, not necessarily one that I know of. Oh, we're not normies. I know. I shouldn't have said that, at least soft. We're not normies. If we're in cryptos at all, we're not normies. If you're part of the FFG community, we're not normies, especially. I meant a different word that was more like plebs. We're not the wealthy elites. We're not in that group. We're ninjas. We are bag holders. Yeah. The only POW blockchain that can scale for tokenization is BSV. Well, like I said, we got a BSV fan. I don't know. I haven't looked too much into comparing BSV to BCH, but comparing them both to Bitcoin, they're struggling. I kind of stay away from BSV just because I don't like Craig and the guy behind it and all the stuff that he's done over the years. That's just my own personal opinion. Again, if you have any questions, go ahead and put them down here. So yeah, as I mentioned, tokenization, RIT, the Russell 2000. Okay, thank you. What did you say about the Russell 2000? Yeah, we'll see if the rotation is about to begin. I mentioned earlier that a lot of the analysts are saying that we're not going to see real big gains until the end of Q1. We still got some weakness out there. Again, if we take a macro step back and look at what Trump's doing or just general geopolitics in general, there's lots of stuff that could potentially lead to pullbacks or stifle any kind of growth in any financial market, except for maybe gold, because that seems to be really kicking off. Silver, man, what is silver up over $100 today? We did remote view plasma, because I remember we covered it several months ago in our crypto mastermind session, and then they got targeted not too long after. It was kind of mixed. We had really high hopes for it and lots of positive news in our crypto mastermind session, but the remote viewing session had some questions. They showed that it might struggle to kind of gain traction. If you think about it, if you don't know Plasma, people that don't know Plasma, XPL is it's a platform. It's a blockchain that was released by Tether, the creator of USDT, the Tether token, as a stablecoin payment rail. like a lot of people currently, I think one of the most used networks for Tether right now is Tron. So there's a lot of money to be made by these transfers, like the transfer fees and all that stuff. And Tether realized, like, man, whether it's Ethereum, Tron, or any of these other networks that has Tether on it, they're making the money off of this. So they released Plasma to try and capture that space, so that they're not farming out their tokens to somebody else to make money off of. So it's an in-house chain Tether launched to operate stablecoin payments on. And we had kind of a mixed sentiment from our viewers versus what we saw on the charts and analyzing it. So that's going to be interesting to see. I personally, the full disclosure, I do have some Plasma, just because it seems like a solid play moving forward. That's not necessarily going to mean it's going to go up. Like, it has kind of, I think it's pulled back quite a bit from when I purchased it. So that's just something to consider. Let me make sure I see other tokens, but I'm going to make sure I don't skip anybody. BTC playing out like 2022. We'll see if it goes down from here again. I remember 2021 was awesome, and so many of us didn't sell out during 2021 because, like, we're going, Bitcoin's going 100,000, woo! And then it stopped at 69,000 and it never went up again. All of us were like holding our bags, like, when is it going to go? It never did. So we'll see. We'll see. As long as we don't get another Terra Luna, we might not have, or like FTX, we might not get as bad as 2022, but that remains to be seen, right? There's lots of big things out there that could happen. What do I think about Flare Network? Man, it's been a while since I even looked at Flare Network, which kind of says something. If it's not really in the mainstream zeitgeist, it's not being talked about a lot. There's questions about how well it's going to do. I don't know enough about Flare Network off the top of my head and its stats to really give a opinion on it. I'm trying to think if I even have some of it. I have a lot of tokens from back in the day that just kind of sit there. So yeah, I can't give you a solid answer on Flare Network, at least in my opinion. Odysseus, I like that. Hi, Jordan. What are your thoughts on Chainlink? Chainlink, if you watch the show I put out on Tuesday, Chainlink is actually a top RWA token, not because it hosts real assets, but because it handles data. Chainlink is the oracle for cryptos. We did a session on it, a crypto mastermind session on a while back, and basically it came down to Chainlink is the Bloomberg of crypto. If you know what Bloomberg is, the newspaper, they also handle data, whether it's data feeds from stocks and all that stuff, and they kind of disperse it out to people. Chainlink does that for cryptos, and it's also doing it for the TradFi too. So it's covering both worlds. It's bringing TradFi information into the crypto ecosystem. It's taking crypto information out of the ecosystem into the TradFi ecosystem. So it's a linchpin in this whole migration from the old world of TradFi to the new world of DeFi. Chainlink is an integral bridge. So I personally think I'm hyped on Chainlink. It's one of my top holdings. I'd probably put that as, there's not really any good Oracle competitors. So I'd put that as like a reserve asset almost up there with Bitcoin and Ethereum, just because of the role it plays in its current status. You know, that could always change in the future. There are always competitors coming out. But currently, Chainlink is the top dog in the Oracle space. And in my opinion, it's a good long-term hold. Not investment advice. Corium. Oh man, I remember that. I'm digging in the memory bank. Again, I'm not going thinking about it. Like, I don't know too much about it off the top of my head. So that might not be the biggest one now. That's not necessarily true. Like, there's going to be a lot of random tokens even in there. Again, we're going to have trillions of dollars of value come into this ecosystem. So many tokens that probably shouldn't pump are going to pump. It's just, look at, for any project, you want to look at who created the project. The creators, if they're anonymous teams, red flag, except for Bitcoin, right? Satoshi is anonymous, but that's probably best now. But for the most part, anonymous projects, stay away from. They're really easy to rug. They can do something without anybody getting in trouble. Beyond that, look at things like user stats, how many times they're getting mentioned on social media, how many transactions are happening on chain, how many wallets are there, how many active wallets are there, what kind of trading volume does any of these tokens have, all these different factors that you want to take into account when you're evaluating a token, whether or not it's going to be good long term. So sorry I can't give you a bit more on Corium, but that's what my thoughts. My thoughts on reserve right. I've held reserve right. Well, I did. I had some of my reserve rights stolen from me. So all of it actually. But just, yeah, be careful what links you click out there. Even for experienced people, sometimes things can get jacked. But I think I'm hopped on reserve rights. I was a little bit more hopped on it back in 2021 than I am now, just because it's kind of faded behind. But it is doing an integral thing, trying to bring reliable payments to especially South America and other places that don't have them. So it's one to keep an eye on. Again, if I didn't have that stolen, I'd still be holding it. So there you go. Chain League XRP being at the WEF seems it could be the chosen bridge currency to provide liquidity. That's possible. Like, I'm not personally as hyped on XRP as a lot of people are. Like, everybody's like, no, the banks are gonna buy XRP and transact value. I'm like, why would banks want to buy and hold their value in any currency that is volatile and moves? Like, I could see like maybe just buy it, try and sell it out. That's only in seconds, microseconds, and it's not really adding value to the XRP. Like, if they're going to transact value on the XRP ledger, why wouldn't they use XRP's stablecoin? I'm blinking off the top of my head. Crap. It's XRP as a stablecoin. And fun fact, the large majority of XRP's stablecoin is on Ethereum, not on XRP. That tells you something about like who's using it in the use case for the XRP ledger. Just Ethereum is where everybody's going now. So they could, if they're trying to keep everything in house, it's possible that it would be the chosen one by the WEF. But that doesn't, and if people want to kind of ride that horse and capture that momentum, they can join on that. But that doesn't necessarily mean that's going to go up again. That's been the narrative for so long. And I told you earlier that they don't want everybody to be getting wealthy. They don't want us plebs, we're not normies, us like non-aristocracy people. They don't want us getting rich. So they won't, in my opinion, they're not going to pump the XRP because a lot of us plebs already hold it and we're expecting it to go up. And if they were to do that, we would get our wish. I can't tell if I'm reconnected right now. Am I live? Anybody give me a heads up? The thing is saying. Oop, am I back now? Whew. Oh, welcome back. Yeah, are we still going? Okay, we're still going. Let me see if I can get back to this chat session. Yeah, that was weird. It's kind of shut off. Like my computer didn't shut down. The internet was still. The wireless mic sounds a bit muffled too. Sorry, Doug. Still working on the some of the finer features of this. Okay, I gotta scroll back up, see where we're at. You're taller than your door frame. No, it's perspective. Mm-hmm. Scrolling. My thoughts on Chainlink, reserve rights, WEF, XRP. Flare is ramping up. I do hold some Flare now that I think about it, as long as that didn't get stolen too. But a lot of these tokens are not gonna be around in 10 years, in my opinion. We're still kind of working out what's gonna be. Flare is really ramping up. Built-in Oracle, big institutional interest. Yeah, there's lots of institutional interest in a lot of things. Like what remains to be seen how they fare over time. I think I've had Flare since 2021 and haven't heard much about it now. So, but again, okay, we're only now getting to the place where a lot of the stuff that they want to do with crypto is they're capable to do it. A lot of it has to do with the whole global network. If the system wasn't set up and computers and nodes and all these different things around the planet to be able to transact in all these different currencies or whatever, that wasn't around until recently. So now that this global network of computers, nodes, people that are crypto savvy, that are hosting anything that can support the underlying infrastructure, that's set up now. So a lot of the things can start to roll out. There was many projects, even Salt was one of the early lending projects, but because the whole ecosystem wasn't developed enough, it wasn't able to really gain traction and get its foothold. It's still around. So a lot of these projects, including Flare, were around back then. They had really high hopes and good expectations or good plans, but because the underlying infrastructure wasn't there, they weren't able to really gain that traction. And now we've moved past them. The whole ecosystem has evolved, and it's hard, really. Like what you notice is for a product to really, an older product to really have a revival, they have to rebrand. Like Maker rebranded to what? Sky. Like you'll see that a lot. So for projects that have been around for a while, then need and get new attention, they're gonna have to rebrand. So Flare needs to do that, in my opinion, to really gain some traction. A lot of the other ones as well. What about U.S. oil reserve? Oh, I don't get too much into the commodities personally. I need to start doing that more, especially with the show. But I think oil, at least currently, is always a good investment because the world still runs on oil. Uh, most all of the equipment that's currently out there uses oil, gas, anything like that. Now we're starting to see some new, and we did have a recent the future of energy session at Future Forecasting Group, which showed that we are going to be moving. Like oil is still going to be a major thing, but we're going to be moving to other ones, including the uranium one we just had. I personally believe that there might be some big announcement in the near future regarding energy, whether it's a new form of energy generation or something like that. Like I've been envisioning since I was younger, like this big black box that can just connect to my power grid at my house, and it just generates energy on its own. Like, oh, will that ever become reality? I don't know, but it's possible. But for currently, oil remains a solid investment, and anything that we build, all these new systems that we build, will have to be built using oil. So for now, I do think oil is a good investment. Tum tum tum. I wish they could live stream remote view sessions. Yeah. It is possible to do that, but you can't. Like it'd be like they'd be streaming it and no interaction from the outside world, and that depends on the viewer. That somebody's comfortable doing that, but maybe if we get enough people suggesting that, maybe do some like live shotgun remote viewing kind of a thing. We'll see. Solar panels are getting there too, but still very expensive. Yeah, I don't personally. Again, I grew up. I was really into environmental issues when I was younger. I have a degree in environmental health science. When I was in my undergrad, I went to Cal Poly San Luis Obispo. The study I did was I worked at on the cafes on campus, and I was looking into putting solar panels on top of the cafe to see if that would reduce energy costs. But actually, because it was a college campus and they used so much energy, they had a special deal with power companies. So where it didn't even come close, like the cost of putting all the solar panels on there greatly dwarfed. Like it didn't catch up. It would take forever to make that money back. Yeah. So and solar panels never really. have advanced to where they can be this global thing that are really reliable. They have to be replaced. They do degrade over time. There's lots of issues with solar panels and wind, in my opinion. I do think that like uranium, if we would have kind of not listened to all the greenies back in the 90s and 80s and 90s and kind of focus on nuclear energy, we'd probably be in a lot better place now as far as a global energy grid than we currently are. We're starting to see these small nuclear reactors come out. And I do think that there will be some new forms of energy coming out in the future. But solar panels, to me, they're not the way to go. Even though I'm considering possibly putting some in my house just to decrease the cost. That depends on the crypto market, right? But again, long term, I don't think that solar panels and wind is actually the answer for energy. Which stablecoin to store fiat? If not USDC, USDT, RLUSD, not denominated in USD. That's a good question. What we really have to ask ourselves is what's going to happen with the US dollar long term? Because if the US dollar starts going down, it doesn't matter which stablecoin you're in, it's gonna the value is gonna decrease. Now, we could say that, but again, there's no other real replacement for the US dollar. There's no other fiat currency, especially out there that can replace it. So it's the prettiest pig at the ball, if you will. I personally stick with USDC, USDT. I use Coinbase, so I hold my USDC on Coinbase and I get some percentage with that. There are some new stablecoins coming out, and there's probably going to be a whole lot more stablecoins coming out in the future. Even Wyoming is releasing their own stablecoin. I think a lot of companies, Starbucks, Apple, they're going to release stablecoins. So like instead of having like Apple Pay, you're going to have the Apple stablecoin on their card. So yeah, which one to do it now? USDC and USDT are the safest. USDC is kind of regulated in the US. USDT is well backed. They got lots of gold and stuff on their treasuries. So those are kind of the safest ones right now. If you like Ripple, you can use RLUSD. That's just kind of a personal choice. I'm looking at staking opportunities with legit World Liberty financial communities. Where should I start to look? I would look through the WLFI's portfolio and see what tokens they have in there that are staking. I know they have Ethereum. That's a great one to stake. So I'm not sure if they have Solana. It would make sense if they do. But Solana is a good staking token. Yeah, there's lots of them. Cardano. Yeah, look into their portfolio. Find out which coins are staking. I can't think of them off the top of my head, but if you come back with a question next time and kind of list them out, I'll kind of let you know what I think on each one of them. Anyone RV the trillions of ounces of gold in the Grand Canyon or in Lake Powell yet? What will they do with the silver price? We actually did a big presentation on the Grand Canyon multiple years ago now. I think we did that in conjunction with Bix Weir, who's big in the precious metals, both silver and gold. Yeah, there's a lot of fishy stuff going on with the Grand Canyon. They don't want you to know about I think like 80% is closed off from the public, which is just fishy to me. And I know there's a lot of people in our community that listen to Cliff High. He just put out a post the other day about the dark thesis, and it gets into a whole lot of stuff that even includes like the civilizations that used to live here on the planet, the ones that like we didn't build the pyramids, we didn't build a lot of the stuff that we see out there, and the Grand Canyon clearly has some weird things going on. And if you look at just one picture, and this was on Facebook, I think I saw it. They showed us a mine. It was a mining operation. It had the stratified sides. They put it, and then they put it right next to the picture of the Grand Canyon, and they look almost exactly the same. So I question whether or not the Grand Canyon was created the way they say it was by a river, however long. Like, was it a mine? Was there other stuff going on? There's something clearly fishy about the canyon scenario, and we have reviewed that in the past. But that's one of the ones where we're not going to really get feedback, at least not anytime soon, in my opinion, just because that's such a clamped down secret. But we can maybe revisit that, or I'll help push that forward, just those old sessions, to see if we can kind of bring some more attention to them. Will ISO 222 be the only ones left in the future? I don't think so. I don't ever say that there's only going to be one. Like, people are like, it's only Bitcoin. I'm like, that doesn't do much for decentralization if everything's on one. Or ISO. ISO 222 affects U.S. or Western countries. I'm not going to say that China, India, all these other places are going to adopt necessarily ISO 222 qualifications or whatever they're called. They might be. Are they international standards, or are they just U.S. standards? You're never going to get one thing covering everything. So no, they're not going to be the only ones in the future. They will probably do better in the near term just because they have the narrative going behind them. The U.S. Trump has come out and said like these tokens they're allowed, they're accepted. So that's going to help profit them along. But eventually, there's going to be other tokens that come out in other jurisdictions that solve better problems or solve the problems that are out there better, and they're going to take over. So I don't think that there's only going to be one in the future, especially not just these subset of tokens. But I'm not necessarily a psychic that knows everything about the future. We'll see how it all plays out. I think that's about the last question we see here. And it's about time for us to wrap up anyways. So let me kind of get on with that. Yeah, so if you have any other questions, feel free to let me know. We will be doing shows in the future again. So you can always tune back in, bring your questions those time. But that's going to wrap it up for today's Bull and Bunker. Apologies for the cutting out there. My internet, I guess I was talking about something that they didn't like. We recapped the week's hottest news. We spotlighted Ondo and a couple other tokens, including Centrifuge, that are promising tokens within the tokenization sector. I think that it would behoove everybody to really get out there and investigate tokenization more. As I mentioned, this is going to transform all aspects of our lives. Everything that you know could eventually one day be tokenized and put on chain. That might sound kind of freaky to some people, especially one of our remote viewers. I'm not going to name him, but that's just the way we're headed. We're headed towards a more efficient system where everything is tracked online. When you think about artificial intelligence and big data, two of the biggest themes of the last like 5-10 years, that's where the ways the world's going. And the only way to really manage that world is by having an online or like digital system capable of tracking all that, organizing it, and making it easily accessible. So like the digital, like I've said this hundreds of times in the past, the only way any of this revolution stops is if like the whole planet goes, the electric grid for the whole planet goes out. Otherwise, this is the road we're headed on. And like here at the Bullrun Bunker and what we've been doing at crypto viewing and future forecasting for the last 8 years is giving people a heads up on these developments so they can position themselves ahead of time instead of just either pushing back or complaining about what's going to happen. Accept it, integrate it into your life, and position yourself accordingly so you come out ahead. So you're welcome, Otto Banfer. Sorry if I messed up your name. So that's our session for today. We highlighted those ones. We got Centrifuge, Realio, Ondo. There's a couple other ones. If you want to see our crypto mastermind session that we recorded last night, you can sign up for future forecasting group. You got to sign up at the founders level though. Explorers tier is for mostly remote viewing stuff. We do put some of the other things. We have the Dr. Scotty segments. We got crypto mastermind segments. We get one of those a month on the Explorers tier. But every week, the founders get crypto mastermind session. They get a Dr. Scotty session plus some other things and any kind of new financial updates, anything. So if you're interested in that, head over on the future forecasting group at ffgrv.com and sign up. Hope to see you over there. And for now, keep building. Until next time, bunker down, stay bullish, and ride out this tokenization wave.